Club Show with Jacquie Wayans. Inspiration through word and song for you.
I'm looking for, how can he trust you with more if you have not proven to be trusted with the little that you have already?
Exactly.
And we pray all the time that I want God to do exceedingly and abundantly, and he can do it because he is God. But the reality of it is faith without works is dead.
Okay.
And if you have the faith but you're not working, then everything is going to be null and void, in my opinion.
Well, that's very clear. So when we come back, we're going to get into some real examples and real tips about how we can exactly build a legacy, a financial legacy, when we return.
Mom, here's the mail.
Thanks, sweetie.
Mom, can I grab $20 from you today?
Yeah, sure, that's okay.
Cool, thanks.
With the legacy lady here to tell us all about how we can get our financial legacy together. And I'm bringing this to you not to tell you something, but because I need to know myself. So I'm very happy that you're here. Listen, I want you to address something right off the top. Many of us who are watching, we're faithful with our tithing, and we're, going to church, we're cheerful givers. And the message that I hear oftentimes is, listen, as long as you're tithing, as long as you're seeking God and putting him first, you don't have to worry about anything. He's going to just take care of you. How much of that is, completely accurate?
Okay. So it kind of alludes back to what I shared in the last segment, where I mentioned that faith without works is dead.
Okay.
At the end of the day, again, God is amazing. He can do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we can even fathom or think.
Yes.
But the reality, again, about it is that we need to bridge the gap between God's economy and the world's economy. And a lot of times we're so codependent on God's economy, meaning that God would supply all of our needs, but not realizing that we live in the natural. And in living in the natural, we have to be great stewards of saving, investing, and just doing those necessary things here in the earth so that we can marry the two together.
Yeah.
So God he can do it. And I love the fact that we have a lot of Christians who are very diligent in tithing, but they haven't really become good stewards of the world's economy by savings. Because statistics show that 76% of Americans live from paycheck to paycheck. And that resides in the church as well.
That's something I didn't really understand. I got married very young, and I remember an older couple, older than us, at 20, everyone's older, right? Just sitting with us and saying, listen, this world has a system by which it operates.
That's it.
And if you are on the outside of that system, whether it is that you don't have a degree, whether you don't have a skill set, then you are going to actually make the way for you much harder. And I was a little bit, again, being in my 20s, on my high horse. Well, but with the Lord, you can do all things. And they're looking at me with all their wisdom saying, okay, she's going to take the hard road, isn't she? And I, unfortunately I did. But thankfully, my ears are opening up. So when you say legacy, what do you mean by that?
So when again, a lot of things that I base my life on is largely associated to what I read in the Bible. And the Bible talks about how a good man leaves an inheritance not for just his children, but for his children's children. So for me, a legacy speaks volume. And what it does is it says that, you know what, I want to lay the foundation, which is what I'm doing now. And what I'm going to do is in the future is set it up in such a way that my children's children will not have to worry or look for anything. And I glean back on my dad and how he set the tone in my life and how he laid the foundation coming here from Jamaica, coming here into the States. And even from then, just laying the foundation and just showing me, okay, Keishan, this is how you go about doing certain things when it comes to your finances.
Right.
And he didn't know he was planting a seed in me for my legacy to come.
Right.
So legacy for me is just, it's really, really important because, again, it lays the foundation of what it is to come in the future.
What does legacy practically look like? So if I'm now at the end of my days and I'm ready to pass on things to my kids, what does that look like? Because a lot of us rely on a death benefit or things like that. So what does it look like to say I'm going to leave a legacy?
So a legacy can come in so many different forms. So since we're talking about finances, leaving a legacy of financial stability couples having a property and maybe leaving that to your kids, or having, you know, retirement that you can leave to your kids, or insurance, whatever it is that you're setting your kids up so that they don't have to beg for bread, quote unquote. Just being able to have things set up in place. So what happens, unfortunately, when people pass away, they don't have life insurance set up. So already there's a disadvantage. Yeah, they're at a disadvantage because they're not setting their kids up for having a legacy, meaning taking care of the financial obligations of burial or just passing things down to the next generation. So in the Black and brown community, unfortunately, we're at a disadvantage because we don't have these conversations and we're not educated. So the resources are out there for us to really build our legacy. It's just for us to take hold of it and really do the necessary things to be successful. But legacy is different across the board.
So, you know, in society, we tend to function in extremes. You're either at the left of the pendulum or the right of the pendulum. What is, in your experience, some of the biggest pitfalls on either extremes that you've seen with people when it comes to this idea of leaving a legacy?
I think one of the main thing is sometimes people are just not educated on certain things. And there's one rule that I always tell people about, and it's the 80-20 rule. And this whole 80-20 rule pretty much means that building financial stability, legacy, wealth has 80% to do with your behavior and 20% to do with knowledge.
I'm going to actually pause you right there. When we come back, we're going to go more into it, and we're going to find out what we can do, because some of the steps are not as hard as you think. So when we return, we'll talk some more.
Here's the deal. I'm going to give you $25, which could buy 12 cheeseburgers, 625 googly eyes, or 29,000 staples, or that $25 could help a woman in a developing country transform her entire community. Text money to 38383 to give away $25 of our money.
Hi, I'm Anthony Anderson, and on TV, I play a dad who has it all. But in real life, I grew up in a very different neighborhood. My parents worked hard for everything we had, but one key thing I learned from them was to take care of the future. They understood that tomorrow isn't promised to anyone. That's why they each had life insurance. And when I turned 18, I got a policy too. This is what I don't understand. If we could do it on our limited income, why are there over 100 million Americans without life insurance? Wouldn't you want to make sure your family is okay if something happened to you? I mean, you insure your high-def big screen, but not the person watching. What's up with that? Where's your family's safety net? If you can buy a latte now and then, you can pay for a life insurance policy. It's that affordable. As a husband and a father, I understand why my parents made it a priority. You should too. Join me in taking care of our family's futures. Learn more at lifehappens.org.
A public service message from the nonprofit Life Happens.
Don't you give up now. Don't you give up now.
And we're back with Keishan T. Rowe as she's talking to us as the legacy lady about our finances. And just before we went to break, you defined the 80-20 rule, but now can you elaborate and go into exactly what that means?
Okay. So the 80-20 rule pretty much is circled around building financial wealth on this whole 80-20 concept, which is 80% has to do with your behavior and 20% has to do with the knowledge.
Okay.
So there's something that I always tell my clients is that you can't build long-term wealth with short-term thinking. And said it best, that we are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence is not an act, but a habit. And what we need to do is break down those habits that we do constantly that are not conducive for financial success.
Okay. All right. So here's the thing. You're a financial coach.
Yes.
Right? I would have to pay you to help me to get out of my problem, which seems kind of like an
oxymoron.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So explain why it's important to be able to pay for financial freedom in some cases.
I think the reality of it is we need to understand that if we want to become better in any areas of our lives, we have to invest in ourselves, because investing in ourselves pays the best dividends, because we're setting up, again, a legacy. So if I myself am being taught, and that's one of the things that I pride myself on, is really teaching people about changing their relationship with money. So it's one thing for me to just give you the information. And there's this parable that says that if you feed a man for a day, he'll eat for that day, excuse me. But if you teach him for a lifetime, he's going to eat for forever. So my whole thing is teaching people the fundamentals of how to get out of whatever financial issues you are in and taking it to the next level. So I try not, and I'm very cognizant and aware that if you're in debt, it's really hard for you to get out of debt if you have to pay an individual thousands of dollars to help. So what I offer is at a fraction of the cost, because I realize, again, in the Black and brown community, this thing is not really out there for individuals. So what I try to do is just make it affordable, because again, if we wanted to spend money on getting a new pair of shoes or getting our hair done, we will find a way.
Okay, so that takes me into mindsets.
Yes.
So help us shift, because I know there's some who, as soon as I asked that question, you started answering about paying to, get financial freedom. The wall went up and the block is like, I'm not listening anymore. Bring in the tools that we can begin to use even today to start to shift our mindset about money, about legacy.
Yes. I would say that the first tool, which is what I encourage my clients all the time, is to start off with a budget. Because a budget is laying the foundation. It's like your blueprint. Like, you wouldn't build a house if you didn't have a blueprint. The same way is when it comes to your finances and getting out of debt. If you do not know how much money you're bringing in and how much is going out, you can't really tackle your debt, because you don't have an idea of where your money is going. And Dave Ramsey coined having a budget as giving every dollar a name. And I absolutely love that, because every dollar that you make should be accounted for. Every time we go to Starbucks, every time we go to get a bagel in the morning, sometimes we're not cognizant of what we're doing, because we get into the cycle of just swiping. So I swipe. I really want people to become very aware of giving every dollar a name and using cash, because cash is king.
Wow, there's some things I need to correct right now. Okay, and what about things that we can say or do to keep us motivated and to stay in the game?
Things to keep us motivated and again, to stay in the game, constantly feed yourself. The way we feed our bodies to survive in the natural is the same way we need to do with our minds. So knowledge is power. Again, you want to feed your things with things that are going to increase your knowledge, increase your financial stability. So I would say read more books. Dave Ramsey has some amazing books. Doing research, watching things on YouTube or CNBC, engaging in conversation with your peers about, investing. A lot of the financial and the investing instruments and tools that I use came off of peer conversation that I had with individuals. And I feel as a society, we engage in all of the wrong conversations at times. And it's nothing wrong with talking and having fun, but we also have to realize that if we want to be the part, we also have to put in the work.
In our closing minute, there's that verse in Philippians 3 that talks about pressing towards the mark of the high calling. How can you connect
actually one of my favorite scriptures where it talks about forgetting those things that are behind us. And as you mentioned, pressing towards the mark. And I think a lot of times we allow ourselves to be captive to debt. And in order for us to move in the next realm, we need to be mindful and aware of the fact that Christ died that we might have life and have it more abundantly. Therefore, we can't allow ourselves to live mediocre lives. Right. He didn't call for us to be that way. So in order for us to really have that shift, we have to change our mind, because it's with the mind that we do everything. Yes. It's with the mind that we engage in our finances and take on different activities in life. But the main thing we need to do is change the way we think.
You heard it. John 10:10. He came that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Thank you, Keishan, for being our guest. Until next week, I want you to go ahead and be your very own best hero, because the greatest hero of all said you were worth it when he gave his life for you on the cross.
Now's time for the Don't Give Up and Win takeaway moment.
Do you have aspirations of doing something much greater with your life, but you're stuck with the 3 C's, the cubicle, the check, and the coffee? Have you tried to start a business and you just can't get it off the ground? Have you tried to take your life in a new direction, but you keep hitting a brick wall? I get it. You may even feel like you're broken. But understand, even if you're broken, you are still brilliant. You can be broken and brilliant at the same time. Look at me. If I was on welfare and I made the transition to become a serial entrepreneur, so can you. Understand that secret is in the mindset. Shift your mindset and you will shift your life. Now, ladies, remember this. If you want something different out of your life, you have to do something that you never did.
Another study has come out. I'm sure they spent a lot of money on this with great insight that says people don't save enough to retire on. Wow! You're kidding! Really? I thought everyone had millions of dollars in their 401k. You mean people don't save money? You're kidding me. I mean, most people walk around, I'm going to buy this and put it on payments. I'm going to buy that and put it on payments. I'm not saving anything in my 401k. I can't spell Roth IRA. They spend everything they make with this great idea that they're going to retire and count on the government, which is well known for its ability to handle money to take care of them. Dude, what's going to end up happening is you're going to be so broke you can't pay attention. I mean, minimum wage will be giving you a raise. I mean, you're going to be so bad, you're going to be ordering the cookbook, 72 Ways to Prepare Alpo, and love it. You know, it's a funny joke in a way, but in a way it's not. I literally had a friend of mine not long ago who went to visit his aunt. He hadn't seen her in a while, and she was in her 70s. She wasn't in really good health, and the home was a paid-for home, but it was a modest home, and it was really clean and nice and had been kept up well. And he went to make lunch, and he opened up the cabinet, and it was full of dog food. And she didn't have a dog. That scares crap out of me. Because I do not want to be working at McDonald's when I'm 78. Unless it's the one I own in St. Thomas. I just don't want to live like that. And you know, there's only one way that you don't retire broke. You have to save money. That's why I get the big money right there. Insights like that. You know, it really doesn't matter the quality of your investment or how smart you are or how sophisticated you are if you don't put any freaking money in the account. So USA Today has got this story out. 36%, this study says, front page of the money section, USA Today, about 36% of workers have less than $1,000. Been there, done that. When it comes to retirement savings, 36%, a little over 1/3 of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings. That's financial suicide. It's not going to go well for you at retirement. Here's what's really scary. Only 22% have more than $100,000. Now, I got to tell you, if you stack $100,000 on the corner of this table, I'll smile and take it, okay? That's a lot of money. But when you get to retirement, it's not. Because if you're living on 8%, that's $8,000 a year. Living on 10%, that's $10,000 a year. It's $800 a month. We're back to dog food again, people. And that's $100,000 saved, and that's only $100,000 and above is only 22% of Americans. Well, you can't save money out there. Yeah, you can't save money because you freaking spend it all. That's why you can't save money. You can't save money because you don't have a plan. You can't save money because you don't care. You're more worried about the big screen. I got to have an 80-inch because my 70-inch is just not cutting it. And so I have nothing in my retirement. Zip! Zero! The survey findings said that debt is weighing heavily on many people. Oh, see more. This surveys, man. I'm glad they got this thing because none of us knew that. Debt is weighing heavily on many people, with 58% of workers and 44% of retirees saying they have a problem with their level of debt. Yeah. Like workers, many retirees are also short on funds, with 58% having less than $25,000 in savings and investments. About 60% of the people have less than $25,000. 65% of workers plan to work at retirement. I'll bet. Here's what's interesting. 65% of workers plan to work at retirement. And yet, like 75% have almost nothing saved. So the other 10% are, they just don't have a clue at all. That's what that means. So many people realize they're not on track in saving for retirement, and the two most important reasons they give for not saving is the cost of living and day-to-day expenses. You know what? Cost of living is not your problem, and your day-to-day expenses aren't your problem. It's your spending. You have a car you can't afford. You're going on vacations you can't afford. You're buying clothes you can't afford. You had Christmas that rich people didn't have. You're spending like you're in freaking Congress. That's why you have no money. Now, if you're on a budget and you're not getting out of debt, I'm not talking to you. But, I mean, when you say 36% of Americans, 1/3 of Americans have literally no clue how they're going to eat when they're not able to work because old age sneaks up on them, does that not scare you out of your mind, societally speaking? Well, we ought to take care of the poor. Yeah, we ought to take care of the poor. Here's an idea, though. If you're poor, maybe you ought to save some money so you're not anymore. Well, it's easier said than done. Yeah, I know. It's what I've been teaching people for 25 years on this radio show. Get on a written plan, live on less than you make, set aside an emergency fund, cut up your stupid credit cards. You know, here's what's hilarious. The 36% of Americans that have less than $1,000 in the bank, if you sat down and had lunch with them, I'll bet you they say, I'm using my credit card so I can get points to travel. My airline miles are important to me. They've got a better plan to beat the credit card company than they do to save for their own retirement. Because they bought the lie that debt is a way of life. See, when you don't have any payments, when you get rid of the car payment, when you get rid of the student loan that's been around so long you think it's a pet, you get rid of American distress, you get rid of I discovered bondage, you get rid of all this crap where you're paying payments out all the time, and you look up, you'll have money. And here's the other thing. When you start living on a plan, you're going to realize you've been spending more than you make. You're spending money you don't have to buy things you don't need to impress people you don't really like. Stop it. Stop it. You've got to freaking get in control. This is called growing up, America. It's an indication of maturity when you save money. One definition of maturity, emotional, spiritual maturity, is the ability to delay pleasure. And we've got, apparently, a large segment of our culture that are a bunch of children walking around in adult bodies because they have no ability to delay pleasure whatsoever, and you're going to become a major problem for the rest of us. Oh, you already are. Maybe it's time you started getting on a budget and selling. Maybe you need to amputate your freaking Tahoe. It's time to get the credit cards out and chop them up. It's time to get on a written plan, America. This just scares the crud out of me from a society standpoint. 36% of Americans don't even have $1,000. You got some work to do, boys and girls. You need to learn how to spell 401k real soon. This is the Dave Ramsey Show.
Mom, here's the mail.
Thanks, sweetie.
Mom, can I grab $20 from you today?
Yeah, sure, that's okay.
Cool, thanks.
There's that verse in Philippians 3 that talks about pressing towards the mark of the high calling. How can you connect that verse with what you're asking us to do?
Okay. That's actually one of my favorite scriptures where it talks about forgetting those things that are behind us. And as you mentioned, pressing towards the mark. And I think a lot of times we allow ourselves to be captive to debt. And in order for us to move in the next realm, we need to be mindful and aware of the fact that Christ died that we might have life and have it more abundantly. Therefore, we can't allow ourselves to live mediocre lives. Right. He didn't call for us to be that way. So in order for us to really have that shift, we have to change our mind, because it's with the mind that we do everything.
Yes.
It's with the mind that we engage in our finances and take on different activities in life. But the main thing we need to do is change the way we think.
You heard it. John 10:10. He came that you might have life and have it more abundantly. Thank you, Keishan, for being our guest. Until next week, I want you to go ahead and be your very own best hero, because the greatest hero of all said you were worth it when he gave his life for you on the cross.
It's not over until God says so. Don't you give up now. Don't you give up now. Darker days are just for your thought. Don't you give up now. Don't you give up now.
Don't Give Up Show with Jacquie Wayans.
Hi, this is Keishan, Rowe, the legacy lady, on the set of Don't Give Up and Win. I strongly encourage you to tune in, because I bet you're going to